It was a foggy night in Hopewell, New Jersey, when 20-month-old Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr. vanished from his second-floor nursery, and America's most famous family was plunged into a crime that would reshape law enforcement and spawn a dozen conspiracies. Charles Lindbergh, the aviator whose solo transatlantic flight had made him a hero, returned home March 1, 1932, to a nightmare. A window open, a few bed sheets on the lawn, and a hastily built ladder propped against the house. On the night of the abduction, a ransom note demanded $50,000. The next weeks were a fever: newspapers, telegrams, amateur detectives. John F. Condon, a Bronx schoolteacher who called himself Jaffsy, became the public intermediary, negotiating a payment that would cement the case's theatrical contours. May 12th brought another blow: a small body found in the woods outside Hopewell. The autopsy determined the child had suffered a fatal skull fracture. The nation mourned. The crime became both a personal tragedy and a public obsession. Political pressure led to new federal power. The 1932 Lindbergh Law made kidnapping a federal offense when victims were taken across state lines, yet the hunt for the abductors remained local, messy, and human. Over 2 years, investigators chased leads, and suspicion drifted toward a German-born carpenter named Bruno Richard Hauptmann. On September 19, 1934, police arrested him after $14,650 of the ransom, marked gold certificates, was found linked to bills traced from the paid ransom. Handwriting analysts testified that Hauptmann's script matched the ransom notes. A wooden ladder, reportedly constructed from 2 pieces of wood traced to Hauptmann's attic, became a centerpiece of the prosecution. At trial in 1935, the state assembled these strands into a narrative of criminal conspiracy. Hauptmann recruited help, plotted the abduction, collected ransom, and killed the child when something went wrong. But the case never settled into simple closure. From the start, defense lawyers and skeptics argued evidence was circumstantial and contaminated. They pointed to questionable police procedure, witnesses with inconsistent statements, gaps in the chain of custody for the latter, and forensic methods that today would draw scrutiny. Hauptmann insisted the cash had been left with him by a dead acquaintance. He denied writing the notes. The trial's tenor was charged: xenophobia against a German immigrant, relentless media coverage, and an atmosphere that made impartiality difficult. Here, the story branches into 2 conspiracies: the crime itself, a plotted abduction carried out with tools, timing, and a demand for ransom, and the counter-accusation that the legal system, eager for resolution and under extraordinary public pressure, stitched together a case that fit a suspect rather than proved guilt beyond doubt. Supporters of Hauptmann argue the state relied heavily on handwriting experts, whose methods were disputed even then. Critics say the latter evidence was overplayed, despite questions about its provenance. Prosecutors countered that the convergence of traced bills, handwriting similarities, and circumstantial links made a compelling whole. In February 1935, a jury convicted Hauptmann of murder. He was sentenced to death and executed by electric chair on April 3, 1936. To many, the verdict settled an ugly chapter, a ruthless act by a single conspirator. To others, it sealed an injustice, a man executed amid reasonable doubt and a national hunger for finality. What remains indisputable is the case's consequence. It changed policing, federalized kidnapping investigations, and left a permanent ache in American memory. The Lindbergh baby's loss exposed the brittle seam between celebrity and privacy, between forensic promise and forensic overreach. Decades later, books and films would reweigh the evidence, propose alternative suspects, and argue over motive and method. The truth of that foggy night retains its iron heart, the child's absence, but around it swirl human things: fear, ambition, grief, and the hunger for certainty. Whether Bruno Hauptmann was the architect of that conspiracy or a scapegoat of circumstances, the Lindbergh case stands as a cautionary tale. In the face of a crime that shocked a nation, the drive to close the story can itself become part of the story, and justice can be both accomplished and contested in the same breath.